here's the situation for most people. You're in the shit, you've got problems coming out of your ears because you're drinking alcohol, and you're saying to yourself, enough is enough. So I want to ask you a serious question here. How the hell is calling yourself an addict or saying that you have an addiction going to help you? I mean, just think about it for a second. You're putting a poison into your body and it's ruining your life. I want to make sure that we understand each other here, that we're on the same page. Your problem is putting a poison into your body and every consequence that those decisions bring, right? Now the problem is the same, whether you call it an addiction or a habit, it doesn't matter what you call it, the problem is the same. Calling yourself an addict, calling what you have, the problem that you have, an addiction, that changes the way that you see the problem in your head. And that, my friend, changes everything else. These are words which come with massive negative baggage. And I mean by that, we already associate these things, addict and addiction, with a whole host of negative things. And what this does is it just adds a huge misery cherry on top of everything else that you're going to go through. I think it's one of the biggest mind fucks of all, and I've just got no truck with it. I've got no truck with it at all, because it sows the seeds of doubt, of confusion, of complication. It adds so much complication, which is completely unnecessary. You don't need these things. This is a journey that, once you get rid of this shit from your body, this should start giving you mountains of confidence. That's the way it should be. You know, you're taking off the blinders, you're uncovering the stuff that you need to do in your life, you're taking away the fog that has been blighting your life for so many years. You should have a very clear and concise roadmap of what you're going to do now, where you're going to go, and how you're going to get there. And things should be as clear as possible, right? To avoid all this complication, unnecessary complication. You don't need that shit. These are some of the first things that I teach my students on Habits Feed 2, is how to deal with this, how to divest yourself of all that crap to make things as easy as possible. If you want to become a student, up here. So let's switch to after you stop drinking. How is calling yourself an addict going to help you then? As far as I'm concerned, you've got two problems once you stop drinking alcohol. The first is dealing with the direct consequences of drinking and your drunkenness. The second is dealing with the consequences which you've caused through neglect. What we call those are the first, second, third, fourth order consequences. Now the first part of this is the simplest, right? You just stop putting the poison into your body. You don't even have to say to yourself that this is a poison. All you have to do is stop putting the stuff in. Second part, maybe you have to go down to your doctor to get some advice, some help. Maybe you have to deal with some issues caused by the alcohol that you were drinking. But in general, your body is going to look after this itself. You know, your liver is such an impactful organ in your body. It's going to do a good job. Now the second problem, when we're talking about the second, third, fourth order consequences, these are the things that happen because you were drinking. So because I was drinking, I got late to work. Because I was late to work, something else happened. Because that happened, something else happened, right? Or, you know, more long term, because you were drinking alcohol, you didn't take up the opportunity that you could have had next week. And because you didn't take up that opportunity, something else didn't happen to you in 6 months' time. And then because you didn't do that, so on and so forth. They're the second, third, and fourth order consequences. Now, most of these problems you're not going to solve overnight. You know, it's just a fact. You're going to take time to solve. Many of the problems you won't have to solve now that you've stopped drinking alcohol. You know, you get your life back on track and just things start going better for you. A lot of those things that you've caused outside of yourself, not the physical damage that you've caused to yourself, but the external things, the external consequences that you're causing, a lot of those things won't matter anymore, because now you're on a better track once you carry on not drinking alcohol. So you'll have a lot more time and energy, you'll have a lot more mental capacity to devote to thinking and decision making and proper decision making, and just getting up in the morning every day, not having to think about that hangover, and being able to take one step forwards, another step forwards, another step forwards. That makes a massive impact on your life. So what would you normally do if you had a problem? Right? What you do is you figure out what the problem is. Then you start to hunt around for a specific solution. a specific solution, one single solution. Then you apply that solution, and then you figure out whether or not that solution has worked. If it hasn't worked, you go back to the beginning and you figure out another solution that's going to apply to that problem. If it has worked, then you move on to the next problem. And that's basically it. Calling yourself an addict is never going to help you in this situation, because it adds layers of complication, it adds layers of doubt in yourself. You know, the problems that you have are the same in reality, regardless of what you call the problem, right? The problems are there because you're drinking alcohol. You know why the problems are there. Stopping drinking alcohol is going to solve some of the problems, but it's not going to solve all of them. Now, most of the bigger problems that you're going to have are in your head. It's the perception, it's how you see these things, it's how you frame these things. And if you frame them through an addiction perspective, you're just adding layer upon layer of complexity that you don't need to add. You know, there's things that you need to do. Stop putting the alcohol into your mouth, and then you need to move on and solve the problems that you've got and focus on those problems. The more you focus on things that you don't have any control over, and you say, well, I can't do it because of that, the less capable you are of dealing with your own problems. You need to stop putting this poison into your body, and then you need to deal with the problems one by one, and you need to deal with your life, move onwards and upwards. Get to that best possible version of yourself is doing it very slowly, piling up brick by brick by brick. Now, a lot of people have internal problems with shame and guilt when they stop drinking alcohol. So if you've got that, watch this video next.